Well, I think the first thing worth considering, of course, is there's been tremendous change in the automotive industry and indeed in many industries around the world on the back of the credit crunch. And of course, none of these things are over yet. Everyone keeps talking about double dips. Well, we seem to be in the dip. So, I mean, any company has to be very, very careful about what's going on within its markets. The changes that we saw within the automotive world particularly, so notably companies like Toyota and Honda dropping, and the emergence of Nissan coming into the table again after being outside for 3 years, I think is just testimony to what's actually going on inside those businesses. Brands are long-term indicators of success. They're not something that means you had a good year last year or that you might have a good one next year. They're really an indication that you're going to do well into the future. Now, building the kind of foundations and the frameworks that you need in place in any business and to be able to guarantee success far into the future takes time and effort. And I think what you're seeing in the emergence of companies like Nissan is that all of those things are being put into place, and it's now coming to fruition on one hand. And then, of course, you could say that some of the other manufacturers, Toyota particularly, did not respond so well to the events of earlier this year in the Japanese earthquake. But of course, they were also running on the back of some rather unfortunate events, over previous years, doubts over their quality of manufacture and all the issues they had in the US. So I think there's a lot of contextual factors that matter. Probably the most important thing in terms of future success is going to come down to how well you understand your market. Everybody knows that the industry is oversupplied. It has been for a long time. Capacity is crazy. We were talking to some executives earlier on who were saying they don't think it'll be very far before that's the case in China as well. What it really is about is understanding demand. So if the car industry for the first 50 years or 70 years of its life was about supply, this is all about demand. It's about understanding your market. It's about understanding your brand. It's about how you understanding how you fit into people's lives and making sure that you're doing all of those things right, as well as being able to manage the shop and produce great vehicles. Well, I think if uncertainty is the new status quo, I mean, didn't somebody once say change is the only thing that we can be sure of? I think within that context, flexibility has to be the name of the game. So understanding that your brand and your business have to move and flex with markets is going to be something that really helps businesses to stand out in the future. In terms of your brand, I mean, what generates value from your brand, there's only 2 or 3 things that we look at, one of which is obviously the abilities of the business to generate economic value add. In terms of how the brand operates, it's how does it help people choose? So to what degree does your brand actually influence the choice? Now, I think every manufacturer wants to get to a position where they're having to spend less money on actually sort of pushing the vehicles through the channel, so to speak, and more money on being able to do great R&D, great innovation, and make more exciting products and services. So I think there's opportunities there to help make sure that your brand is driving choice as much as possible, make sure that it is as desirable as it can be, and that it stands out clearly. There are so many manufacturers, so many models. We've just been to the Tokyo Motor Show. I couldn't count on all my fingers and toes, and indeed all of my family's fingers and toes, how many different types of vehicles that I saw, let alone the number of different brands you see. It's a highly complex market. You have to stand out. That's always been the case, of course, but in a demand-based, and even more demand-based sector, it's absolutely fundamentally important. Then, of course, building a strong brand is really what it's about. It's about being able to make sure that into the future you remain desirable for people, that people are going to remain loyal to you. Now, that whole area has changed quite significantly. And really what's changing it more than anything else probably is the social network, social media, and the way that people are actually buying is changing. Many people, particularly within the car industry, have started to realise that the chatter that goes on the social network sites around people when they're purchasing is leading to them considering brands or models that they might never have previously thought about. So the whole market is opening up effectively to every individual. That actually means you have to compete harder. Or the other way of looking at it is that there are tremendous opportunities to break into people's purchase processes, whereas previously you might have thought it was not possible. So providing you keep an open mind and you keep flexible around the way that you think about your customers and the way that you think about what you are to them as a brand, there's tremendous opportunity. We talk about brands as being like a red thread within organisations, and we've always said previously that there were two strands of this thread. The first one being a very, very distinctive positioning in the marketplace. One of our brand strength factors is differentiation. It's just the ability to stand out. That really has to act like a story throughout your whole organisation, driving everything that you do. And we can all think of brands that it doesn't seem to matter whether you walk through the door of their sales or service centre, or whether you're walking through the or using one of their products. It all somehow seems to fit together beautifully. The second thing is about value, which is about brands are there to build value for organisations. So understanding how that works through all of your different touch points, the different ways that customers come into contact with you, and indeed within your organisation, is absolutely critical. I think digital is becoming the third strand of the red thread, and it's for a very simple reason. Quite simply, you can use it to tie together the whole of your organisation and your experience, both inside and outside. Many people talk about digital being as an opportunity to perhaps enhance existing experiences, so bringing interactive elements into dealerships, for instance. That's a very obvious thing to do. It also enables you to create connections with customers when they're not perhaps ordinarily in touch with you. So I come and visit a dealership, I see something I'm interested in, and actually I can then leave with part of that through my smartphone, or through you having contact with me through some digital means, or me then becoming involved in some kind of discussion. The net result is that whereas you might have had a fractured experience with a particular brand, there are now opportunities to join all of that together. So you can almost make the real world better by enhancing it, and you can create a whole other group of opportunities to have relationships and have conversations with your customers and indeed your staff through digital that were just not possible before. So on that basis, I think that the opportunity for any manufacturer within the auto industry, and actually I'd say most companies in any sector, is to look very, very hard at the way that your employees and your customers interact with you, and then reinvent yourself, because what you can do with digital are things which you wouldn't have previously been possible. Just literally to connect all of those things together, create the third strand of the red thread.